Because make no mistake, when Democrats are fighting ICE, what they are fighting for is foreign invaders, people who should not be in this country, who have been told to leave and who refuse to go. And that's what the fight is. And as for me, my view is very simple. If you're in this country illegally, you need to go home. No excuses. You either go home on your own or we're going to round you up and send you home.
Hello, Florida. This is the Joe Mullen Show, and welcome to another beautiful weekend. Actually, a cold last few weeks and weekends we've had. But this state is by far, even when it's cold, the greatest place to live, work, shop, and play in. And that is because we are the free state of Florida, and we're free because we've had great leadership. People like my guest today, who has fought hard to keep Florida the most safest place to live, work, shop, and play, and be able to have your freedom of speech, your freedom of religion, and just your general freedom. We have got joining us today no other than Congressman Randy Fine. Randy, Congressman Fine, thank you today, and thank you for coming in.
No, it's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Now, Congressman, we've had a tremendous amount of stuff in the news. I mean, it just seems like the media is not going to let up on the Republicans. They're not going to let up on Trump. Everything Trump does, they attack, say is bad. The biggest thing we've seen lately is the ISIS and the ICE and all the activity in Minnesota. And certainly the media now is starting, and Democrats are starting to say in certain areas, oh my God, ICE is coming into our community, and create panic everywhere. What are your thoughts with what's going on with ICE and this narrative the media is playing, and how important it is for our community and our country?
Well, thanks. Look, we're having an existential fight over the future of this country. Over the 4 years that Joe Biden was president, on top of the millions of illegal immigrants we already had, Biden went out of his way to flood the country with tens of millions of new illegal immigrants. Frankly, many of them being the scum of the earth, criminals and crazy people brought in from jails as countries emptied them into the United States. But now they don't want them to leave. And why is that? Why do the Democrats not want these illegal immigrants to leave? Well, number one, they're a source of money. They're making money off of all the fraud and welfare that these illegal immigrants are engaged in. But second, it's a source of political power, where states that would not have a lot of members of Congress, because all of the Americans are actually leaving to move to places like Florida, we count illegal immigrants in the census. So by stuffing their states full of illegal immigrants, they end up with extra members of Congress that they don't deserve. Frankly, Florida should have more members of Congress than we do, and we don't because of illegal immigrants. And then lastly, that's how they win elections. They don't have voter ID. They sign these people up to vote. They vote in elections, and it's how they steal elections. So this is fundamentally a fight over the future of this country and whether we're going to be an America or whether we're going to be a conquered foreign nation.
Crazy, because it's like the roles have changed. These Democrats are going and doing what exactly they accused the Republicans of doing. They're not storming a Capitol, but they're storming our law enforcement. They're storming our first responders. They're starting arguing and fighting. I mean, I watched the video with Alex Pettit and clearly saw him kick a car, screaming, spitting in the face of those guys. I don't know if I could have sat back and not reacted and done something. Had a gun on him. He was very violent, very upset. So you see the narrative now changing, that these guys are victims of law enforcement being too brutal. But yet in January 6th, this is exactly what they were saying that we did, the Republicans, the conservatives, which I was up there, by the way, that we stormed a Capitol, we stormed a government facility, we intervened, and we caused death, and when we had several people killed there, it wasn't a big deal to them. It was not a big deal to them. So how are your comments on this and a message to send out to these people protesting?
Well, look, I think that what's going on is this is about stopping the deportation of illegal immigrants. Frankly, ICE would not need to be going house to house and door to door if, when the Minneapolis Police Department caught a criminal who happened to be illegal, they turned them over to ICE to deport. The politicians in Minneapolis arrest rapists and killers and violent people, and knowing that they're illegal immigrants, let them go. because they're so determined to keep those illegals in their state. It makes absolutely no sense. And so part of their strategy is to create public pressure by creating these fake martyrs, which is what I would call Pretti and good. Look, my view is this. If you charge a law enforcement officer while you're carrying a gun and you get shot, that's not a tragedy. That's you getting what's coming. And that's what happened to that guy. The other lady, good. Well, I got news for you. When a cop, if you start in the middle of law enforcement trying to impede their efforts and you push the gas and you hit a cop and he puts a bullet in your head, that's not a tragedy. That's you getting what's coming. Now, I wish that neither of these people had died, but they brought it on themselves by being in places that they shouldn't have been. And so the Democrats want these people to die. They want martyrs, because by getting martyrs that they can go boo hoo hoo, cry me a river. They will do anything in order to feed their fetish for illegal immigrants.
So, Congressman Fine, the impact this has on Florida and different areas of our state, especially our district that you and I are in, it's so big and people don't understand that. Just like the storming, we're seeing protests, we're seeing people get in the middle of cars, start banging on them, hitting them. And the governor's been very clearly, if you do that and and a person runs you over, that's your fault, not their fault, because they're defending themselves from you attacking either their property or them personally. I personally, if I'm in my car and somebody's slamming a bat on it, or they're punching it, or they're kicking it, I'm not going to get out to see if they do the same thing to me. There's no doubt in my mind that they will. Also, you have the immigration, the impacts it would have on the county and the community. We just recently had someone on social media put out on a post on the Volusia County, what to do in Volusia County. And they said, we live in Utah. My husband's illegal. Do you think we're okay coming to Florida? Utah's just not fun to live here anymore. And the response was just, why would you put that on social media? What are your comments to this kind of thing and how it can affect our district?
Well, they should call ICE and report them so they can be rounded up and deported. That's what I would say they should do. But my view is this. In Florida, we don't play those games. You block the road, you're going to get run over. I was actually proud to help pass that bill called the Thump Thump Act. So you get in the way of a car trying to protest, they feel unsafe, they can run your ass over. And I'm glad that you can do that in Florida. We're not going to put up with our law enforcement being attacked. But here's why it is important in Florida that we round up and deport every single illegal immigrant. The number one thing that makes Florida expensive is not taxes, it is not government policy, it is illegal immigrants. When we have hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants in Florida living in apartments and in houses, that pushes up the price of housing. When we have hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants in our schools, that pushes up the amount of taxes you have to pay for education. You think those illegal immigrants are paying the $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 a year it costs for the state to educate their kid? I guarantee you they aren't. When you have to pay more for healthcare because illegal immigrants are in the emergency room, we get them out of here, we're not paying for that either. And when you have that big line on your car insurance bill for uninsured and uninsured motorist insurance, that might as well be called illegal immigrant insurance because they can't get car insurance. And so you're paying for their insurance as well. So it is important to Florida to be the least hospitable place in America to be an illegal immigrant. They clearly want you in Minnesota. Let me be clear. We don't want you in Florida.
Now, you brought up a very good point, and I've heard people say, well, they're working and they're paying taxes. But the truth of this is when an illegal immigrant is working, they can't get the Social Security card. They can't pay the tax.
No, it's a lie.
Yeah.
They can't. They're an illegal immigrant. They can't pay federal income taxes. They can't pay Social Security. They can't pay Medicare. They're probably talking about, they pay sales tax when they buy stuff at the store. But based on what we're seeing out of Minneapolis, what they're buying at the store, they're buying with your money, welfare fraud. So they're not even paying taxes there. This is all a lie. Illegal immigrants are the single largest drain on our economy because they take, and they do not give.
Now, you were talking about the fraud we see up there. How big is the fraud? And do you think it stops in Minneapolis or is this 50 states?
No, it's everywhere. I don't know that it's as bad in Florida as it is elsewhere, but it's something we have to take a look at. All of these welfare programs, handouts, basically rewards for poverty, these programs are riddled with fraud. I remember when I was in the legislature, you'd get your food stamp card. I wanted to go back to the actual stamps, but they give you a debit card because they don't want you to feel bad that you're on food stamps. And we wanted a bill where you had to like pay some money after you lost it for like the fifth time. And the Democrats lost their minds. Why? Why would you lose your debit card for food stamps 5 times? You know why? Because you're selling it. That's why. And so they know that fraud is built into these programs. The fraud is endemic at every level. And frankly, we got to shut a lot of them down.
Now, we have some Congress has been very active. There is a no welfare for non-citizens act that's out there.
That's my bill.
Has that passed, or is that still in the process?
No, we're trying to round up sponsors for it. Here's the deal. There's 3 kinds of illegal immigrants, right? There's people who are criminals, and we got to round them up. There's people who are here for freedom and opportunity, and some people are okay with them being here. But then there are people who are here for free stuff. And my view is if you come to America for free stuff, stay home. So my bill would ban all immigrants, legal and illegal, from anything free from the government, because we're borrowing money to pay for this stuff. None of it's paid for. It's all deficit spending. And immigrants should not be getting free stuff. They want to come here for a job and opportunity, we can have that discussion. But if they want free things, they should stay at home. And I'm pretty committed to try to get that bill passed.
Now, Congressman Fine, why that seems so important, as an elected official who was on the county level, we depended a lot on federal money coming back to fix our beaches, to fix our road, to fix our infrastructure. And a lot of times, especially during the hurricane, we were told there was no money in SBA, there was no money in FEMA. And all of a sudden, we're finding out all this money went up to programs in Minnesota for places like that, with nurseries for childcare that weren't even open. They're not even open. They're abandoned buildings.
The fraud is endemic everywhere, particularly blue states. What they do is they launder the money. They get millions of dollars. They take a percentage of it. They pump it back into the Democrat politicians to keep them elected. We've got to shut this stuff down. And I will tell the American people this. If we don't, we're not going to have a country, because we're going to go bankrupt. We have got to cut our spending. And if we can't cut the waste, fraud, and abuse, if we can't cut the money we're giving to foreigners, then forget it when it comes to actual Americans.
Now, Congressman Fine, we've seen President Trump really hammer down. He's interacting with these countries that are pumping criminals in here. Venezuela is a perfect example. It's just such a mess. Do you see Congress being able to straighten this out currently? And we are facing some midterms that could change. How crucial are those midterms also?
Well, Venezuela is a situation I think is a great improvement. We had an enemy in our hemisphere, a place that decided to be a front row for Iran, for China, for Russia, for Hezbollah, to be able to hurt us. And President Trump said we're not putting up with that. And so he solved the problem. And I think we're going to see good things coming out of Venezuela. As it relates to the midterms, again, America is on the line. I can tell you, having been here now for almost a year, it is incredibly hard to get good legislation passed, because we have a 1-vote majority in the House. We have a very small majority in the Senate, where you typically need more votes than we have because of filibusters to get things done. If the Democrats win the midterms, I can tell you the only 2 things that will happen for the next 2 years is impeachments and investigations. They won't pass a single bill. You know why? Because whatever crazy idea they come up with, Donald Trump will veto. He will still be president. So we will spend 2 months of completely ineffective government just focused on fighting. And remember, Democrats don't care about you. They care about the illegal immigrant who came to this country to take your job, take your welfare, and in many cases, hurt you.
Now, we're seeing a lot of congressmen step out in Florida and really all across the country, new people coming in. We've got I think CD2 now open. Someone just said Congressman Webster is looking at stepping down or going to step down. These seats are so crucial, in addition to some new ones being in there. What are your thoughts that as Florida as we kind of evolve through it, we get these seats. What are your thoughts and your message you want to send to voters?
Well, just so people know, right now, in terms of, we have 20 Republican held seats in Florida. 3 of the 20 Republicans have announced they're not running again. Byron Donalds in the Naples area is running for governor, so his seat will be open. Vern Buchanan announced that he was retiring. He's on the West Coast. And then Neil Dunn in the Panhandle, the Tallahassee area, announced that he's not running again. So it appears that we'll have at least 3 new Republican congressmen. I have not heard the rumor that you said about Dan Webster. As far as I know, he is running for re-election. So that would be news to me, and I've heard quite the opposite. But it matters, and so there will be open seats where new Republicans will get elected, and hopefully they'll be good, strong conservatives. But our time needs to be focused on winning our elections, beating Democrats, not beating Republicans.
Now, you bring up a good point with the majority, and I'm baffled that the news is not covering this. I'm baffled that this week is going by and it's not been a hot topic. The government right now, is it shut down or not?
Actually, as of about 30 minutes ago, it's not shut down. So it did shut down over the weekend. Democrats welched on a deal to continue funding the government because they wanted to cry me a river about what happened in Minnesota. We put a new deal together, and just a little while ago, it passed the House and the Senate, and the president signed it. So the government is reopened. But this was the second Democrat shutdown in 6 months. In both cases, they shut the government down because they're putting the interest of illegal immigrants over the interest of American citizens.
If the Democrats had the majority, would government still be shut down?
Probably, because I don't think Donald Trump would ever sign off on the insanity that they want, but they don't. And so, we don't have to worry about hypothetical. We need to just make sure that doesn't happen in November.
That's what I'm saying. It's so important. Even with this little margin, they still can throw roadblocks like this. We need to widen that gap extremely. Now, let's talk a little bit. There's some other acts, the SAVE Act. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the SAVE Act is common sense election reform. So Democrats are racists, and they believe that that minorities somehow are unable to get a driver's license. It's the most racist thing I've ever heard, that Black people, Hispanic people are somehow unable to get a driver's licenses, but white people are somehow innately more able to get a driver's license. The SAVE Act would say you got to have a driver's license if you want to vote. The SAVE Act would say you got to prove you're a citizen if you want to vote. These are common sense, no-brainer ideas to secure our elections. Frankly, much of this we already do in Florida. The problem is they don't do it in other states. In Minnesota, you can sign up the day of the election to vote. You don't have to provide anything. If someone, quote unquote, vouches for you, you can vote. So Somalian 1 vouches for Somalians 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 with nothing, no ID, no paperwork, no nothing. They can walk in and vote for their favorite local Democrat. We got to stop all of that.
Now, Congressman Fine, you bring up another valid point, and I've heard several leaders who are not running in the election this time. They're not up for re-election. They are crying to the public in the Republican Party, stop running against our good Republicans and wasting money. We've got to focus this money on the Democrats. They're coming at us hard. They're coming at us strong. What is your take on that?
Well, here's what I would say. Every dollar that a Republican spends running against another Republican is a dollar that we don't have to spend beating a Democrat. Every phone call that's made, every door that is knocked. So when you spend your time and effort trying to beat a Republican, you are helping the Democrats win. Now, I understand that in open seats, we've got to pick somebody new. But when it relates to our incumbents who are fighting hard to help President Trump and get the Republican agenda done, running against those people, what you are doing is you're helping Democrats.
Yeah, I heard, even in your election, I heard one of the guys running against you, someone said, you sound identical to Congressman Fine. Where do you differ on him, and what do you feel is different? And is actually in his own words, where I don't really think there's any different. I think people ought to have another option or another choice. That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, you can't fix stupid. So, I'm not going to try. But what I would simply say is this: when we there are some Republicans who want to spend their time fighting Republicans. My advice to them: go be a Democrat.
Now, CD6 has a lot of issues that have been getting addressed and getting dealt with. I know Florida and the state itself is starting to watch the money, the way it's being spent. They're starting to doge it quite a bit. I love seeing that because as an elected official back then, I saw so much waste when we got in, just buying holograms in the airport in Jacksonville. That's one of the big things they were showing. And then when you see the waste going on in Minnesota and other areas, that money that you're able to bring back is so crucial. How is you as a congressman for the state of Florida defend to make sure that money gets spent and put where it's supposed to?
Well, look, I want to look up, I want to shut down a lot of these programs because you can't defraud them if they don't exist. And that's why I want to eliminate immigrants' ability to get access to welfare. They can't defraud the system if they're not eligible for it. So we've got a lot of work to do in Florida. Some of the concern is our property tax revenues have gone through the roof while population hasn't changed that much. And so where's a lot of that money going? People have a good reason to be concerned. I understand the concern.
We're seeing a lot of that, and we appreciate that front in fighting for that. I think, we've seen earmark where you go, this money has to be spent there, and there's some accountability to it. I know during Biden, so many elected officials were sitting across going, yeah, the government earmarked this money for COVID. And it was so bad because they were basically pulling themselves out of debt to build new libraries, build new parks.
Yeah, there was a ton of stupid COVID money.
Unbelievable stuff, just seeing it as an elected official. But, having our district and our congressman watching that is so crucial. And that's really for every district in the country. It's an important thing. Now, what do you see the important issues that are coming up that we're facing right now?
Well, I think number one, we've got to get our Homeland Security bill funded. We passed a continuing resolution for 2 weeks. And then I think the other thing is perhaps a reconciliation 2.0, where we can take another hard look at government spending and continue rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, the kinds of nonsense that we've got to get under control if we want to make the government affordable again. But then I think there's other things, focus on the needs of my district, roads, water, beaches, making sure that we've got the resources and the policies in place to be able to give those folks what they need.
Now, you've been all over the district. You've been going into the different counties. You've been working closely. You got a tremendous amount of support for all the sheriffs, a lot of the government, just about all of it I've seen. That speaks volumes for a congressman who is working hard, that people say, hey, he's never in the district. You're in the district a lot. For someone to say that, I live there and I see you all the time there.
Yeah, no, we've done, I think, over 100 visits. I was in last, part of the issue people need to understand is this is a job in Washington. I'm not a county commissioner. I'm not a city councilman. This is a job, a full-time job in Washington, D.C. And on average, 3 out of every 4 weeks, I have to be here. But on that 1 week out of every 4 that I'm at home, I try to get around. Last week, for example, we were in 3 of our 4 counties. We weren't in Flagler, but we were in Volusia, Lake, and Marion County. I have a big district too. It's bigger than the state of Connecticut. So to get to every city and every person every week is difficult, but we have been everywhere. I've been told I'm more accessible than what people are used to. And we're going to be in Flagler pretty soon to make a pretty big announcement about some funding that we brought home to help with the beach issue.
Now, Congressman Fine, when I was in office, I certainly served in the Waltz and the DeSantis, and I will personally say as an elected official, both of them combined weren't in the district as much as you've been. It's
I appreciate that. Look, I'm not trying to compare myself to them. I just believe your job's to serve. And on that 1 week out of every 4 that I'm home, and by the way, when I was home for the August recess, I was home for a month. We did 85 visits over that 4 weeks. So we're all over the place. Last week, I was visiting schools. I visited businesses. We did an event to announce our academy, the kids we've nominated to go to the service academies. We were all over the place. And we will continue to do that.
Congressman Fine, so for the listeners that are just joining us, or new listeners or new people in Florida, how do people reach out to you, and what issues should they reach out to you about?
Well, the easiest way to follow me is at Rep Fine on any of the social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, X, Instagram, all of them, or at Rep Fine. But if they need something, they can go to fine.house.gov. That is my official website. They can find our phone number, our office address. I have an office in all 6 counties that I represent. My district runs from the Villages all the way to St. Augustine. It's a huge piece of ground. And so we've tried to make offices convenient for people to get to. And if you need something, go to fine.house.gov. You'll be able to get a phone number to help.
Congressman Fine, I know you're busy. I know there's a lot going on. Is there any more last few statements you want to make to the listeners?
No, we're fighting hard. We're going to do another teletown hall very soon. I would encourage people to follow me on social media. We post 7, 8, 9 times a day to let people know what I'm doing, what I'm speaking on, my bills. So if you want real-time information, or go to find.house.gov and sign up for our newsletter. So we'll be sending you information about what we're doing as well. But what I want people to know is I wake up every morning trying to figure out how I can do the best job I can to serve the people of the 6th Congressional District. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it. It's obviously up to the individual voter to decide, but I'm working as hard as I can every day.
Congressman Fine, thank you for joining us. I know you got a busy day up there in D.C., and we'll see you back in the district. Thank you again for your time and educating everybody and updating them on what's going on.
Thanks, Joe.